Hello health lovers, so it's your cute student nurse V, and we have been discussing about the endocrine system. We talked about the pituitary gland and we also talked about the adrenal gland. Now in today's video we are going to be talking exhaustively on the thyroid and the parathyroid gland, which is also one of the glands in the endocrine system. So now moving forward, let's talk about the thyroid gland. Now the thyroid gland is the largest of all endocrine glands. So if you are asked what is the largest of all endocrine glands, we know that the largest of all endocrine glands is the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is the largest of all the endocrine glands. And it may interest you to know that the thyroid gland is highly vascular. So once an organ is said to be highly vascular, it means that the organ has enough blood supply. So now first thing we said is that it is the largest of all endocrine glands. Now second thing we said is that it is highly vascular. Now the next thing we need to know about the thyroid gland is that it is enclosed in a fibrous capsule. Now you may ask, what is the work of this fibrous capsule? What is the fibrous capsule? Now the fibrous capsule is cellophane in nature, and basically all it just do is to protect the organ. So now the organ here is the thyroid gland, so it's to protect this thyroid gland against infection and trauma. So it covers the thyroid gland and protects it against infection and trauma. So the thyroid gland is located at the neck, in front of the pharynx and the trachea. So it is located at the neck, in front of the pharynx and the trachea. Then we also say at the level of the 5th, 6th, 7th cervical and 1st thoracic vertebrae. That means this thyroid gland begins from the 5th cervical vertebrae, it extends to the 6th cervical vertebrae, it goes further to the 7th cervical vertebrae, and goes further to the 1st thoracic vertebrae. So let's take note of that. Now moving forward, we are going to talk about the weight. Now the weight of the thyroid gland is about 32 grams. Now the length of the thyroid gland is about 34 cm. Now moving forward, we also talk about the shape. So looking at the thyroid gland, all you could see is a beautiful butterfly shape. So you say that the shape of the thyroid gland is a butterfly shape. Now let's talk about the gross structure of the thyroid gland. Now when we talk about gross structure, it basically refers to those things we could see in our eyes. So looking at this thyroid gland, we can see two lateral lobes, and these lobes are divided by what is in the center. And now that thing that divides these two lobes is called the isthmus. So now we take that accordingly. The gross structure of the thyroid gland, it has two lateral lobes that are divided at the center by an isthmus. Now the next one that we need to talk about is the lobes. Now these lobes, looking at the lobes are conical in shape, and it has a weight of about a length of about 3 cm each, about 3 cm, because it varies. So these lobes have three surfaces. It has the medial surface, it also has the anterolateral surface, and it has the posterolateral surface. You may ask, why is it anterolateral surface? Remember, we have two lateral lobes. So anterior of these lobes, now lateral. So looking at the thyroid gland in front and looking at the lateral lobes of the thyroid gland in front makes it anterolateral. Now looking at the thyroid gland behind, the two lateral lobes behind, makes it posterolateral. And those are the surfaces of the thyroid gland. Now moving forward, we are going to be talking about the microscopic structure of the thyroid gland. So the microscopic structure of the thyroid gland, it's composed of cuboidal epithelial cells, and these cuboidal epithelial cells form follicles, and these follicles are known as thyrocytes. Now this thyrocyte produces what they call colloids. Now you may ask, what is this colloids? This colloid is a protein iodine compound, because two hormones contain iodine and it is produced from these colloids. So I take that again. The microscopic structure of the thyroid gland is composed of cuboidal epithelial cells. Now these cuboidal epithelial cells form follicles, and these follicles is known as thyrocytes. Now the thyrocyte produces what we call the colloids, and the colloids is a protein iodine compound. Now moving forward, we want to talk about the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland secretes three hormones. So we have the T4 thyroxine, and we have the T3 triiodothyronine, and we have the calcitonin. Now let's note that the T4 thyroxine and the T3 triiodothyronine contains the iodine compound, except the calcitonin. So the calcitonin is the only hormone secreted by the thyroid gland that does not contain the iodine compound. Now the process through which the thyroid gland picks up this iodine from the blood is called iodine tapping. Now moving forward, we are going to be talking about the organs in association. So medially to the thyroid gland, the organ in association is the pharynx, the larynx, and the trachea. Now posterolaterally we have the carotid sheath, then anterolaterally we have the cervical fascia. Now moving forward, we are going to be talking about the blood supplies to the thyroid gland. Now Arterial blood supply obviously is the thyroid arteries, then venous drainage is the thyroid veins. Now we are going to talk about the nerve supply. Now nerve supply, we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and that is all for the thyroid gland. So moving forward, we are going to be discussing about the parathyroid gland. So it may interest you all to know that the parathyroid gland are small oval shaped glands that are embedded in the posterior surface of each lobes of the thyroid gland. So they are small oval shaped glands that are embedded in the posterior surface of each lobes of the thyroid gland. So we have two on one lobe and we have two on the other lobes. So there are 4 parathyroid glands, and these 4 parathyroid glands are small oval shaped glands that are embedded in the posterior surface of the thyroid gland. So now the length of the parathyroid gland is about 6 millimeters. The color is yellowish brown. Then we also have the combined weight, that's combining these 4 glands and weighing them. We have 20 to 40 milligrams, and that is all for the parameters. Now moving forward, we are going to talk about the microscopic structure of the parathyroid gland. Now the microscopic structure of the parathyroid gland, we can say that the parathyroid gland is composed of fine connective tissue. Obviously if it doesn't have a connective tissue, it won't be able to even attach to the thyroid gland. So it is composed of fine connective tissue and is also enclosed in a fibrous capsule. So the fibrous capsule that encloses the thyroid gland also closes the parathyroid gland. So I'll take that again. The parathyroid gland is composed of 5 fine connective tissues and is also enclosed in a fibrous capsule. Now it may interest you to know that the parathyroid gland has 2 types of cells. So it has the chief cells and it has the oxyphil cells. The main hormone secreting cells of the parathyroid gland are the chief cells. So we said the parathyroid gland is composed of 2 cells, the chief cells and the oxyphil. Now the main hormone secreting cell of the parathyroid gland is the chief cell. Now the oxyphil, the function of the oxyphil is unknown, so we say that the oxyphil supports the chief cell while secreting these hormones. Now moving forward, we are going to be talking about the hormones secreted by the parathyroid gland. So the parathyroid gland secretes just one hormone, and that is the parathyroid hormone, the PTH, the parathyroid hormone. So we talk about organs in association. So anteriorly, because the parathyroid gland is embedded in the posterior surface of the thyroid gland, so anteriorly the thyroid gland is anterior to the parathyroid gland. Now posteriorly is the laryngeal nerves and medially is the esophagus. Now we talk about the blood supply. Now arterial blood supply is the thyroid arteries and venous drainage is the thyroid veins. So the same artery supplying blood to the thyroid gland is also supplying blood to the parathyroid gland. Now we talk about the nerve supply. So the nerve supply is the sympathetic nerve supply and the parasympathetic nerve supply, and that is going to be all for the thyroid and the parathyroid gland. So thank you very much for watching. Do well to like, share and follow, and also drop your questions in the comment section. Thank you and see you in my next video. Bye.